Hey there, Algebra 1. Catlin here with your help for your cooldown and lesson 8, last one. And this is pretty easy stuff that, especially after our discussions that we've had in class, this is not that bad. If you obviously don't understand the vocabulary, it can be a little tough. But doctors suspect a strain of bacteria found in the hospitals becoming resistant to antibiotics. They put various concentrations of the antibiotic in petri dishes and add some of the bacteria to allow it to grow. The bacteria grow into groups in the dish called colonies. After some time, the doctors return to the petri dishes and they count the number of colonies for the different amounts of antibiotic. The data is plotted with the best fit line, and the correlation coefficient is R, is negative 83 hundredths. So we should have an idea of what that means. What does the sign of the correlation coefficient? So we're talking about the positive, negative sign here. What does that tell us about the relationship between the number of bacteria colonies and the concentration of antibiotic in the dish? It tells us that it has a negative relationship. Okay? It tells us that it has a negative relationship that, as the number of bacteria colonies increase, the concentration of antibiotic decreases, or vice versa, as the uh, concentration of antibiotic increases, the bacteria colonies decrease. But is the relationship that strong? Right? So that's kind of what number 2 is asking about. What does the numerical value of the correlation coefficient tell you about the relationship between the number of bacteria colonies and the concentration of antibiotic in the dish? Well, this is where you could say -1 would be perfect correlation. Like it is dropping it because we're adding more antibiotics. The bacteria colonies are going down because we're adding more antibiotics into the dish. That would be a perfect world, but it's kind of matching what they thought is that it's becoming resistant to it because it's not as high as you would think, right? It's not super strong. There is a correlation that as we add more antibiotics, the colonies are dropping, but that correlation coefficient is not as strong as we would like it to be. And as that number gets closer to zero, right? As that number gets closer to zero, it's less and less of a correlation. So it's more meeting what they are thinking. They're suspecting that this is resistance, and so put that into your response, and somewhere along the lines of what does the numerical value tell us? Well, it tells us that it's not super strong, right? It also tells us that it kind of matches what they suspect. It's not as correlated as we want it to be. The bacteria is starting to fight back. And as the more that coefficient goes down and gets closer to zero, or it technically goes up and gets closer to zero, the less and less effective that the antibiotics are. Something along those lines. Okay. I'm not going to write all of that down, but I do expect you to have some type of intelligent response here and probably more than just writing negative relationship. Make this a complete sentence, okay? But you guys should be able to handle that, understanding what we discussed today in class. See you later.